Welcome to Flames Unfiltered, hosted by Burud and Kyle Lewis. Kyle, well, we have a lot to talk about. A major domino fell for the team yesterday.
And, never.
That is only the beginnings of the conversations we need to have since we last talked. I had a Vegas trip and you had a Toronto trip, and enough of that. We need to get talking hockey, right?
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of hard to know where to start today, but
it is.
Well, let's start with the Dylan Dube situation, because that's obviously got a lot of attention and will continue to do so for quite some time due to the fact that it may not even be before the courts until 2026, I'd heard.
Plus, it's probably the least appealing thing to talk about.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too sensationalist about it either, but basically, the Flames had released a statement about Dylan Dube's mental health. At this point, we're led to believe that that's what they thought it was. I have zero doubt, as I'd stated on X, I have zero doubt that they suspected some level of involvement in this.
I think they suspected, but when you suspect, you can't go against what the player's telling you.
No, that's it. And I mean, this matter was settled civilly at one point, I believe, and now has become a criminal matter. There's a lot of high-profile names in this list, and obviously Dube is amongst them. So it's easy to sit there and speculate, as a lot of people have, as we all have, I should say, about what did or didn't happen, or whether the Flames knew or they didn't know, or how much they knew. But
I think the comment of adding mental health into the Flames statement, 5 years ago probably wouldn't have been a big issue. It is now after, things have changed in society, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. And then especially after coming off of the Oliver Kylington thing.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's just a bad look for the team, but I wholeheartedly believe that the hands of the team were kind of somewhat tied in this one. Because
it's easy to sit here and say what they should have done too. I mean, no team ideally would ever find themselves in this type of position. And I'm not going to defend or berate them for how they handle it. I mean, it's just unfortunate the way it went down, right?
It is. And I sit and I look, and I've heard numerous reports say that their lawyers told the players not to tell the teams anything at all, which I think the teams are smart enough to know that. And we all knew that, eventually the hammer's going to fall on this eventually.
Oh yeah.
And
it fell quick. I mean, from, Carter Hart's leave of absence to Dylan Dube's, we knew very quickly where this was headed.
But even like going into this season, we knew that the investigation was still ongoing, and we pretty much all knew that it wasn't going away.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a ticking time bomb, and now the bomb has went off, and we'll find out the truth, and we'll see, and we can judge after we know the truth.
Yeah, see, that's kind of the difficulty of it. So Rick Westhead, who is probably the premier investigative journalist in Canada, always, covering stories of this nature and trying to get to the bottom of them. He had mentioned this may not go to court until 2026. And this is why when I worked in the legal system, and I'd still to this day call it the legal system, I don't call it a justice system, either in the US or Canada, because I don't believe it's truly just. So regardless of the truth of what happened, the fact that this doesn't go to court until potentially 2026, I think, is a serious problem and a flaw in our system, because it's just going to get drug out for the victim, for the families of the offenders, for the accused themselves. It's really, really unfortunate, because it shouldn't take that long in my mind to get this dealt with, and it's going to hang over us all like a dark cloud until such time as it does. So that's right now that's unfortunate. We know hopefully this is resolved sooner, and that's hopefully the last we hear of it once it's dealt with, and hopefully justice is served, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I want justice to be served. I hate speculating and I hate wondering, but as far as the way I perceive Dylan Dube's presence on the Flames right now is non-existent for now and probably the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Be interesting to see how the PA and the NHL handles these contracts, right? Carter Hart, Dylan Dube, Mike McLeod, etc. So
They will be. Did you know that every one of them's a pending RFA at the end of the year?
What are the odds of that?
Really weird, isn't it?
It is very weird. Anyway, we're a little over 5 minutes into this, and barring anything else that you may have to say on this, I don't know what else I can say. So
I mean, unfortunate. I'm sure we will have future updates on it.
Yep, well, certainly.
But we will just leave it at that for now and go from there.
So let's
positive. Let's go into the Kylington news.
That's exactly what I was going to suggest. I'm glad you said that, because this is obviously a very positive thing. So I just, rambled a bit there. I'd like you to do the same. So how'd you feel about his return? How'd you feel about his game so far? Lay it on me.
Since May 26, 2022. That's hard to believe. It's a long time. 21.
That's crazy.
And it was good to see him back on the ice. He's been as I expected, to be honest with you. He's playing better than most guys would, having 20 months off, in my mind. Yeah, I think there's a ways to go.
Oh, of course. But I mean, some people have said he has missed a beat.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, his skating's there. He kept himself in phenomenal physical condition from what little we saw over the last almost 2 years. So as we know, conditioning obviously is a huge part of the game. So no, he's looked good.
So I put something on X/Twitter, and it got some people thinking, and I don't know if they were riled or not. I don't think they were, but maybe it's X. People get riled quickly. I posted a comment saying I'm super happy to have Oliver Kylington back, but what happens? He is a pending UFA. Is he potentially an asset that we need to manage via moving him, or an asset we need to re-sign? Or is it too early to know if we're going to re-sign? And are we willing to take the risk of losing an asset for nothing?
I can't think of a situation less clear than the one that you just mentioned.
And I'm not trying to be insensitive by saying it, but not at all. In this organization, we need to manage our assets accordingly.
First and foremost, this is a business, right? No matter what business you're in, this is no different in that sense.
And, I know a lot of the fan base says, oh, he's going to re-sign in Calgary because the Flames treated him and did him right. They did do him right. And I'm proud of the team for doing him right.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm happy they did. But that doesn't mean that he's just going to re-sign. Like, I guarantee his agent's like not saying, you know what, Oliver, I think we just need to give them the bargain basement deal and let's move on.
I think what's going to happen is the Flames are going to look to go with a prove it contract to him, and he might field offers elsewhere for a little bit more. I mean, he doesn't, as much as in a sense we may feel that he owes him something for being treated as well as he was, he doesn't technically.
He doesn't technically. I feel like morally he does, because we paid him, or so we think we paid him. It's a real gray line there, and I'm not trying to sound insensitive by saying it, but I'm saying that, like,
it's a complicated situation. It's not about feelings or how we feel about one's mental health. That's secondary to your point. I think our listeners can realize that.
How would you feel right now if we re-signed him at $2 million? I'd be like, ooh.
No, I wouldn't support it at this point.
You know what I mean? It's not, and I love what he brings to the team, and I really want him to progress and be part of the long-term plan of this team, because I think he's something we need.
Well, there's a reason he surpassed Valimaki in the depth chart a few years ago. And it wasn't just because Valimaki was struggling. Kylington was that good. So, but I think this is a case where player and team have, at this point they say, let's talk at the end of the season. Because right now we don't know enough.
I don't think anybody knows enough.
No, definitely not.
Happy to have him back, though.
Absolutely. It's great to see him out there. I love the reception that the crowd gave him. It was really cool.
How did you feel about Klapka getting his first game and Cole Schwinn?
Schwinn kind of surprised me, just because he's not as sexy of a name, or because he was from a different organization when he was with the Panthers. But it made sense. I'm just enjoying just the whole season of recalls and trying guys out. Like, I mean, we've had Pospisil, Klapka, Coronado, Zari, who else? Schwinn now, obviously. And then on defense, Solovoyov. I'm
actually
forgetting people. That's crazy.
I'm with you, Kyle.
Oh, Kuznetsov.
We can't keep doing this though. We need to.
We've never done it. That's why I'm enjoying it. I mean, they're starting to figure out what they have.
Are you going to enjoy it 3 years from now if we're still doing it?
No, because if we're still doing that, it means we haven't figured anything out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like as far as Klapka's first, or what did he get? 1 or 2 games? Did he get 2 games?
2 games, I think. Yeah.
I thought he was okay. Didn't stand out to me. That doesn't mean he's bad, because Matthew Coronado to me has not stood out at all. Cole Schwint, I mean,
I didn't really notice him one way or the other.
We'll see. I mean, it's so hard to tell. Did anybody stand out against Chicago? No. God awful, boring freaking hockey game.
Oh man, speaking of boring games, great atmosphere for boring game. I was at the Jets and Leafs in Toronto.
0-0. A great game though. It was a good game for
Ilya Samsonov played the game of his life, so it was cool to see that. But it was funny when I wore one of my Lewis Jets jerseys just to be a dick because I can't stand Toronto fans, generally speaking. And this girl turned to me when Matthew scored and the Leafs won. She turned to me. She's like, "How's it feel to lose?" And instead of just saying, "Well, it's not actually my team," I just looked at her. I said, "You're a Leafs fan. You tell me." Like,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was quick. I had a couple beer in me. I was feeling witty.
I would have been like, unfortunately, I'm a Flames fan. I'm used to.
Yeah, that wouldn't have helped my case at all.
Man. So the waiver wire. I'm in Vegas, sitting there having a drink, and
just one, right? From what you told me,
a large drink. Oh, the place is expensive now.
Oof. Is it ever?
It's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. You know what surprised me? It was like abnormally quiet there.
Really?
Yeah, it was. It was really quiet.
But I haven't been there in 4 years now, which is crazy to think about. But anyway,
that was about the last time I was there too. But yeah, it was abnormally quiet.
Huh? Strange.
So, Adam Ruzicka, Nick DeSimone placed on waivers, and neither one of them clear. Were you surprised?
I was 50-50. I thought that, DeSimone is a good depth option for anybody. And I thought somebody might take a flyer on Ruzicka and try him out as a waiver pickup, cost him nothing. And again, people who say, "Oh, we gave up too soon. He's this, he's that." I mean, we know the book on him.
We might have give up too soon.
No, I don't think so. But I mean, he may have some measure of success in the league. But as I've said about others, it wasn't going to be in Calgary. So,
no, I mean, people got really bad about the Valimaki thing, but that was probably, in my opinion, more premature than this one.
Oh, it most certainly was. And it was kind of like the Monahan situation, like the summer they gave up on Monahan. I remember, a few guys that I'd spoken to who were kind of upset with the Flames handling of Monahan, like they just basically discarded him. And now, especially after the Lindholm return and that trade, like Monahan's going to fetch a first at the trade deadline or sooner. Like he's having a great year in Montreal. He's a guy they gave up on a little too soon, I felt. Valimaki, I felt the same thing. I don't feel that way with Ruzicka, not at all.
I don't. I went to bat for this guy so many times over the years, and
then you just get so frustrated watching him.
He did. He just turned into a painful pain in the ass to watch, and
he's got to score. He's going to be in your top 6, or he's not really useful. And
he's got to work. He is so talented.
Yep.
So big, so strong. I just can't figure out what motivates this guy. Yeah, it's sure not being in the top 6 because he didn't work hard enough to be in the top 6.
No, he certainly did not.
I'm wondering on this DeSimone, right? So he's with the Devils now, and he's basically plugging a hole for injuries.
Yep.
Which leads me to believe he'll be placed on waivers again once injuries heal up in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be surprised if Calgary grabbed him back.
I wouldn't be surprised if Calgary's in a position to grab him back in the standings before anybody else can lay their hands on him. So, yeah, that's a good point. It's a very good chance that he'll be back.
So, AJ Greer. And yes, listeners, we're going to get to the Lindholm. We're just housekeeping.
I want to say all the little stuff because that's a bit, but we're going to save the best for last. We'll put it that way.
AJ Greer is going to be missing 8 weeks with a fractured foot.
Yeah. I have a story about foot injuries momentarily, but let's talk about AJ Greer.
It looked worse than a fractured foot, didn't it?
Oh yeah, it did. It did.
Sports book at Mandalay Bay watching the game, and I'm like, He's done for the year.
Yeah.
And
would have been a good trade chip too. I mean, sucks
So-
that he got injured first and foremost.
well,
but
now where do we go with AJ Greer? He's expressed that he likes Calgary and wants to stay in Calgary. Is this a guy you would consider re-signing?
No.
No, really. Don't you
No.
think you're going to need him on the fourth line?
I think it's lots of guys that can do that job. Honestly, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I look at our depth chart right now, and now Dube's gone, Ruziska's gone, Lindholm's gone. It's pretty slim pickings. I mean, I don't know if I would consider Cole Schwint a full-time NHL player next year. I don't know if Edm Cgy pans out. At this point, I don't know if Matthew Coronato's a full-time NHL player next year. I would hope he would develop into that, but I don't know. Like I look at him as like a no-risk signing because I know what I'm getting, and he's a little bit more of a veteran presence on that fourth line.
Yeah, it wouldn't bother me in the least. I think he's also potentially easily replaced. But I mean, keep in mind, and this is part of my hesitance, is that not that he scored like Lance Boma did in that season back in 14-15 or whatever it was, but they have a habit of overpaying guys in that role. Garrett Hathaway for a little while, Lance Boma. Like, if they sign him correctly, I'm fine with it. And now this is a different GM, so I don't necessarily think it's going to happen again. But if you're going to keep him, like, he's going to be near the league minimum because the guys like that are a dime a dozen.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there.
I guess that's part of my hesitance. But anyway, so my foot injury thing, if I may.
Yes.
So I was playing hockey on Monday night, and I took a pass off the toe of my right skate. Just a pass, but it hurt like hell, and I couldn't figure out why. So I didn't think too much of it. I went to get new blades, put my skates the next day, and of course I don't make those blades anymore. And then the guy said to me at the sports counter, he's like, well, you might be able to find them aftermarket. And I'm like, well, maybe I should just look at getting new skates. He's like, well, maybe you should. He takes the toe of my skate, and it's like it's talking to me. He just pries it open. The boot cap of the skate was completely separated. So the puck had essentially hit my bare toe, which is why it hurts so damn much. So $500 later, I get a new pair of skates.
You want to hear my skate story this year?
I do.
I haven't played like organized senior men's hockey for probably 5-6 years. I play sled hockey now, but I haven't played organized men's. But my daughter wanted me to come play hockey with her earlier this year, so I went out, and my foot hurt so freaking bad. Like my right foot hurt so bad, and my wife was making fun of me, laughing at me because she's like, why would it hurt that bad? I'm like, I don't know. Like I don't understand. And I felt fine out there. I was skating fine. I get home and I look at my old Bauer skate, and I'm like, the back heel part had kind of done what yours did.
Yeah.
And it was like there was like a wedge of plastic that was just like digging into my back of my foot.
Yeah.
So I went and bought a new pair of skates too, but I went and skated in those, and they're about 8 times lighter than. So I'm like, geez, I think I could play again.
Yeah. Oh, I got Bauer Vapor X3. It's like a middle of the road skate, but I mean, breaking skates in sucks. So hopefully tonight goes okay. However, we shall see. So are we ready to get into the big stuff?
Fire away.
All right. So I'm gonna tell the story of how I found out about what happened. So I was at a comedy show last night with a couple of buddies and one of their girlfriends. Well, she's a good friend too, really. And this guy, Greg, we went to high school together, graduated together, went to a year university together. He's one of those people I really don't see enough because every time I hang around him, like, he's just a lot of fun. And he's very inquisitive. Like, whether he does or he doesn't, he always sounds like he gives a shit about whatever you're talking about, and he asks you all the right questions. So he's asking me about the podcast. I never mentioned it. I never even knew that he heard it. And he's not a Flames fan by any stretch, but apparently he really enjoys it. He compared us to, like, listening to Overdrive on TSN, which I thought was a huge compliment. And I was explaining to him how you and I have never actually met in person and how it all came to be. And anyway, very shortly after we're talking about this at this bar, at this comedy show, you text me about this trade. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Brad? Like, what's going on? And And then I start looking at it.
All he said was, I think I just said Lindholm, didn't I?
Something like that, yeah. And then it's like
pretty vague, but it was early, and I mean,
the chatter just started. We kind of knew he was traded. We didn't know much about the return. First, like they mentioned Kuzmenkov, and then they kind of kept going and going and going, and it's like Craig Conroy's really good at trades, it turns out.
Well, and then the part that made me laugh during the whole process is all of a sudden, then Tanev's involved, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then they said, no, that could be a separate deal. And then me and you were talking later. I'm like, was that maybe leaked out there by the Flames to get other teams a little more juiced up about Tanev? I don't know.
It could have been. I wouldn't have liked to trade them both together because I think it kind of waters down what you're going to get in return the more you put into one trade.
Well, I would prefer not to give Vancouver our two best assets.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Tanev in somewhere where I could care less, like New Jersey.
I don't think either one's going to stay there because of cap constraints anyway. I think they're just going to be.
I think we actually in this whole deal and the Zadorov deal, I think we got 4 draft picks for 2 players they are going to be completely unable to re-sign.
I can't see it. I mean, Lindholm's arguably the best contract in the league, and he's not going to be after the summer despite a very subpar year. So
let's go ahead and break down the trade. Who's all in. Elias Lindholm heads to Vancouver for.
Well, Kuzmenkov was the big one coming back. I mean, in terms of immediate, and he's a very skilled winger. I watched a lot of highlights. I remember watching him play a fair bit when he was with the Canucks. He's going to be fun to watch, and it's also really cool. I think James Johnson posted this, but a picture of the '96 Kuzmenkov jersey. And it looks cool. It reminds me of Burud wore, of course, he's a superstar that wore 96 in Vancouver for a bit, right? It just looks cool. So at least he's going to be fun to watch. He might not have a center to play with, but he's going to be fun to watch.
So from what I don't know who he's going to be put with, but I think Kuzmenko is one of those guys that has a huge upside. But when I look at him involved in this trade, I look at him as he was the cap dump by Vancouver. The first round pick, the prospects, and what I look at how Kuzmenko is just he's the guy that is the roster player that is is one of those guys that's hey, if it works great. If it doesn't, then we can move him at the deadline or we can move him next year, and he's a movable piece, right? Now,
you're gonna have
a lot of people will argue and say, well, is he movable at that cap hit? Well, I think in the right situation he is.
So I'm going to have to stop you there because I have mispronounced his name at least twice so far.
I know I was going to give you a hard time and say Zatter.
But the reason being is I've been staring at the pronunciation of Hunter Brustovich for about half an hour. And I was so concerned about screwing that up that I didn't even realize I was saying the easiest name involved so poorly. So my apologies to the newest Flame. So
I'm sure he's listening today.
Hunter Brustovich plays for the Kitchener Rangers, where a good friend of mine, actually his whole family is pretty good friends of mine, is on the coaching staff. So I texted him for his thoughts on it. And this is probably the piece I'm most excited about in this trade, especially where it's generally regarded to be a fairly weak draft. So he has the hockey sense to run your power play. He's an A+ passer. And I want to emphasize the hockey sense because I remember actually the same guy's father comparing Chabot to Carlson in terms of being offensive defenseman. And he had said that Chabot didn't have anywhere near the hockey sense that Carlson has. And that was the big difference between the two. So the sense is very important. But like any offensive defenseman, he's always been criticized for his defending, but from day one, we identified and he's improved. And I mean, that's what you get in young defensemen who are so offensive minded. So this kid got 69 points right now. Nice, by the way. Gotta throw that
I think
in
he is a leading defensive scorer.
He has 17 more assists than any other player. Never mind defenseman, any other player in the OHL right now.
Wow.
That's wild. And the early indications are maybe it's lip service, but whatever. We'll find out. He's had good conversations with the Flames and does seem excited to be joining the organization. So he, to me, is the biggest piece of this at this point.
There was also chatter last night that he was one of the reasons Vancouver was willing to give up on him was that he wasn't committing to be signing in Vancouver.
Well, it depends on the situation you're in too, right? I mean, the Canucks and Flames are kind of at different points right now. The Flames are going to have a fair amount of openings in defense, most likely with Tanev and Hanifin. Tanev will be gone. Hanifin, I suspect, will be gone. DeSimone's gone. I mean, Zadorov's gone, or Zadorov if you're Frank Saravelli.
The cupboards are a little bare.
Absolutely. They are. So he's a big help that way. Now, the other defenseman that they acquired, and the kind of the least sexy part of the deal, I guess. So he's still playing in Finland. I have to look up his name again. My apologies.
Johnny Urmo.
Urmo, that's it. So he is with the Pelicans in the SM League, I believe. Stay-at-home defenseman, large. I think he's 6'4".
6'4", yep.
Yeah, virtually no offensive capability whatsoever from what I can see and what I've read. But very steady. And
it says his speed makes him one of the best puck rushers in Finnish under 20 league.
That's pretty impressive. But he's also very young. So like Ristevich, we don't know exactly how he's going to pan out. But another piece, which Calgary needs pieces, as you said, the cupboards are pretty bare.
Now, they also get a first-round pick in this year's draft, which will probably be like a 30, 31, or 32, which is fine. And then we also get a conditional fourth-round pick, and the condition on that is it turns into a third-round pick if the Canucks make the conference finals.
Yeah.
Vancouver, I when I look at this deal, and I thought many times, what's going to make me happy when we talk return for Lindholm? And as this went down, I was scared to death because all I was hearing was Kuzmenko's name, and I'm like, oh my god, like, oh my god, we need something here. And then we get the two prospects, and then a first, and then a conditional fourth that can be a third. I'm like, this is a good return.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good return.
It's a fantastic return, especially for a player who is having a very, very subpar year. And with all due respect to Elias Lindholm, he should not be an all-star. He shouldn't be an all-star.
I love Elias Lindholm. I love what he did for the team. He worked hard for this team, and he was a good Calgary Flame, and I'll always remember that.
Yep.
But let's face facts, you guys. He wanted $9 million. If we would have given him $9 million, where would we be now when you pile that onto the Huberdeau? And oh my goodness gracious, it would have been a nightmare. Is Elias Lindholm going to be a good player for the rest of his career in the league? Absolutely. But he is not going to put up numbers like he did when he was with Gaudreau. That was a great year. Now he's going to be playing with some great players in Vancouver, and there's no doubt his numbers are going to improve from what they were earlier this year with Calgary. No doubt. But is he a $9 million center? I don't think so. And this is a pure rental for Vancouver.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's been a lot of stuff on X, and I mean, I've enjoyed seeing it because it's a bit nostalgic. But like Monahan, Gaudreau, Tkachuk, Giordano, Lindholm, Sam Bennett, like all these pieces that we had for years, like they're all, gone. But the team, like they weren't really moving ahead, and that's not the fault of any of those players because they're all fantastic players. But sometimes things change, or things need to change, or guys see opportunity elsewhere, or the team, like I said, in the case of Monahan, felt they had to go a different direction. Like, it's a good thing all around, as sad as it can be. I have some fantastic memories, of attending the 2022 playoffs, 2015 playoffs, and I wish all those guys the best wherever they are, and I'd love to have some of them back, no question. But it's, you got to move on from it. And I think that, Conroy in this trade moved on in the best possible way because he brought in a real sniper that can be fun to watch for now, or it can be flipped as a trade piece at the deadline if they keep bottoming out. You got all the, a bunch of prospects, draft picks, even though it's, considered a weak draft, there's always surprises in the draft. I don't know how you could possibly expect the Flames to get more.
No, I don't think so.
Like
for a guy that's in Vancouver has absolutely zero guarantee that he's re-signing there. And quite honestly, when you look at what the work they're going to have to do this summer with their big guys like Pettersson, I don't know how he signs there.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's the thing. That's something they're going to have to figure out. But good on the Canucks for going all in. Nobody thought they'd be this good. They are. They got to strike while the iron's hot. So good for them.
I agree. I agree with it too. I mean, I think this is a deal, and this is a cliche that said way too often, but this deal probably works for both, right?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So I was quite happy with that and very interested to see what deals may come. There will be some for sure.
Boy, pull up Daily Faceoff and look at our line chart right now.
Oh, I looked at it yesterday. Actually, I looked at it on Daily Faceoff. I also looked at it in the NHL 24 video game when I put the lines together myself. It's center's a little suspect looking, right?
Oh boy. Yeah, it's it is a start though, probably. And we can all, this team, it was wishy-washy what was going to happen. And with this last skid where we lost to Toronto, Edmonton, St. Louis, Columbus, pretty much sealed the deal. I mean, if you look at where the Flames are now, and if you need 95 points to make the playoffs, the Flames have to go 23-9-2. I don't think that happens. So that's a higher percentage than actually the only teams that have won at that rate this year are the Canucks, Bruins, and Jets. I don't think that's happening. So I mean, this is the time to start reforming and reshaping, and that's what I think we're going to see. I don't. 2 weeks ago, I was all about re-signing Hanifin, and I'm not saying that I'm not still for the right price. I do think, though, when you're looking at the Tanev and you're looking at the Hanifin thing, we can gather as many picks as we want to gather, but we still need to fill a roster, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you can only do it with so many AHL players or prospects, right? So,
yeah.
Be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes for sure. More interesting by the day, it would seem.
Let's rewind to the Columbus game. I wanted to talk to you about this. What did you think about the Huberdeau hit?
I think his reaction kind of said it all. It's a shitty play. Hockey happened like it's so quick, right?
Yep.
Like I don't believe Jonathan Huberdeau would ever do something like that intentionally. And I don't think.
Did you notice earlier in the game, Roslovic took a run at was it Tanev? No, Uyghur. He hit Uyghur from behind.
That's what it was.
He hit Uyghur from behind, and all I thought when this happened is, you know what? What comes around goes around, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those games that get chippy based on one play, and I don't think there's typically much malice involved with those types of hits. They just kind of happen. But it's unfortunate because it's always a domino effect, right?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. This losing streak was really frustrating to me. Not that we were losing so much, just kind of the way we were losing just kind of wore on me mentally.
Yeah.
And then the 1-0 win over Chicago on Saturday night was just like, am I watching this? Am I watching this?
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. I was watching the Royal Rumble, actually, and then I tuned into the third period of the game, and it was, man, that might have been the best game Markstrom's ever played for the Flames.
Yeah, he stopped like 4 or 5 breakaways.
Which is pretty sad.
Against the Chicago team, yeah.
Yeah.
What this trade does, though, getting back to the trade, what this does for Vancouver, it makes me wonder what Edmonton is thinking. And when we bring up Edmonton, let's switch on over to the X Factor this week. The X Factor comes from Victoria Lai. It says, Oilers fans are here to buy our car, and I'm wearing my Flames jersey, and they look very sad that their new car will be secondhand from a Flames fan. And
wow.
I thought that was funny. I just thought it was a good. It was. Believe me, when looking for X Factors this week, it was a little bit of a struggle until last night. I got a good one for you on that though too. But I just sit and I wanted to bring this up because I wanted to talk for a few minutes about the Edmonton Oilers. This team is. They are. If they can beat Vegas on February 6th, they're going to have the longest winning streak in the National Hockey League. They're tied with 16 games and
longest win streak ever. Let's make sure we emphasize that.
Yeah, the 92-93 Penguins. Yeah, that's Mario Lemieux. Yeah, that's man.
Which is amazing that Penguins team didn't win the cup that year. They won the previous 2 cups, right?
But I said I look at this team and I look at how the Pacific Division has changed, right? And we hate the Oilers, and if this trade, quite honestly, if this trade helps Vancouver beat the Oilers out, then I think it's a win.
Well, the Oilers are a decent hockey team. They're not, to me, as good as this win streak makes them appear. They're just really, really hot. And I mean, I may eat my words in the playoffs. We'll see. But to this point, like, it's a dangerous time of year to get that hot, because if they burn out in March into April, that's not good. And the Flames have done it. They had that 10-game win streak a few years ago. And a coworker of mine at the time said they got hot too soon. And I think he was right. And this could be the same case here. Potentially.
Listen to this split. So first 18 games, they were 5-12-1. They were allowing 4 goals a game, scoring 2.9. They were power play was at 21%, and their penalty kill 74.
Yeah.
The last 26 games are 23-3, 3.88 goals for, 1.96 goals against, a 30.1% power play, and an 89.9% penalty kill. This is a complete turnaround, and Skinner's been really good for them.
Yep.
I don't think that's sustainable from him. But
it's not sustainable from that team, but I mean, this break is very poorly timed for them. Very poorly timed.
Yep. No, they needed to keep rolling, didn't they?
Yep. But, good for them. Good for Oilers fans. I mean, as much as I'm not a fan, it's like a Canadian team that had a real shitty start to the season has turned it around. So it'll be very interesting to see where they go, and if they have an eventual matchup with the Canucks, how that'll look. That's
going to be a battle. I was laughing last night when I was on X. I mean, it's so funny when trades start to heat up like they did last night, and me and you were going back and forth, but you're scrolling, you're just looking for any new news from reliable sources, right? And I had to laugh because I saw a tweet from Rose Creek Nasty that said, hopefully they bring back Olli Jokinen. I thought of you.
I was so excited when that trade happened.
I saw that and I'm like, oh, Kyle will like this.
Man. I'm actually checking X right now to make sure that we didn't miss anything.
So what happens? Where do we go now, Kyle? The moves are happening. And we have a 9-day break now. The team gets back at it next Thursday night, the 6th of February, when they go to Boston. They start off a 4-game Eastern road trip. The roster looks depleted. We got the Dube gone. Where do we go here? Where do we go?
Well, it's like Conroy said this yesterday to Natasha. I'm going to butcher her last name. It used to be a TSN. Natasha.
Yeah, I know you.
And the worst part is I'm the one that taught her how to say Kylington properly. I taught her, like, on X. I corrected her when she was still at Sports Center. I said, hey, just an FYI, not to be an asshole, but it's not Kylington. It's pronounced Kylington because it's Swedish. She's like, oh, thanks. I had no idea. And now I can't remember how to pronounce her name, which is awful. Anyway, Conroy basically said the team still wants to make the playoffs, still want to be competitive. So that's why they acquired all these different pieces in the trade. I don't know that might be just a way of covering up the fact that they'll flip Kuzmenko for whatever. But where they go, they try to stay competitive and keep making trades. Also, as an aside, because we didn't touch on this and I didn't know this, that conditional third-round pick, the condition is that it's a 4th rounder, but becomes a 3rd if the Canucks make the conference. Yeah, did you mention that earlier? It was conference final. You said, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. So they're going to try to be competitive, but they keep getting returns like the one they got for Lindholm. Keep trading.
Oh, I know. I think that's what I mean. We're going to lose these assets, so we might as well gain what we can.
Yeah.
It's just going to be very interesting over the remainder of this season and into next season, how we can transform and gain some bodies that can help build the future for this team now.
Well, they'll never use the word rebuild, which I hate the fact they'll never use it. But with trades like this, they don't necessarily have to, right?
Well, we're in one. I mean, we're in one as much as we can.
Well, they call it a retool or whatever, but
whatever. Call it whatever the hell you want.
So far, Conroy's doing it a hell of a lot better than his predecessors have. I will say that. He won the Sharon Govich trade hands down, in my opinion. Great waiver pickup in AJ Greer. He won the Lindholm trade, unless the Canucks basically win a Stanley Cup.
If they win the Stanley Cup, then so be it, right?
Yeah. But guess what?
I don't blame Vancouver for making this move.
Not at all. They had the assets to do it. Nobody else could pony up. If we're on the other end, if we're Canucks fans and we can acquire Elias Lindholm for whatever it takes.
It's static, right?
Of course. You've got a great hockey team. Why wouldn't you go to make it better, right?
I don't
for something you've got lots of. They have all kinds of skilled wingers. They don't need Kuzmenko. Like, see you later.
Do you think they're done? I don't think they're done.
No, I think they're going to be the team that lands Tanev again too.
You think so, huh?
I do. Yeah, I think they'll find a way to make that.
So who comes back in return there? Hoglander?
Hoglander is the name that keeps getting tossed around as far as a roster player goes, and then maybe a future first. I mean, you got to think too. Jim Rutherford's in his 70s. He wants to win a cup as much as anybody in the league, right?
Yeah.
And this is probably his last real chance to do it. I really firmly believe that, and only for no other reason than it's that hard to win, which you've said for years over and over. One team out of 32 wins it. They do. That's it. So he's going to swing for the fences. I think they could pull off a separate Tanev trade, and the Flames will be very happy with the return they get. I really believe that.
Or is it Garland?
Former Moncton Wildcat, my guy. I'd take Garland.
Would you would,
Yeah, but again, he played here, so I'm kind of biased. But
where does he fit into our roster, though? Like, I'm just looking at this pure future. Like,
you got to take some players back. So I mean, maybe let's somewhere else.
Let's be honest, though. This team needs to figure out a way to find a number one center, and they're like finding star right-handed defenseman, right?
The best hope for number one center right now is Hanzik panning out whenever he's ready.
But he's been playing more on the wing, hasn't he?
More recently, yeah, but I mean, he can still be a center, much like Lindholm was a right winger, but also a center, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm still mad about the Mark Savard trade from 25 years ago, so don't ask me.
It's been a while.
It wasn't 25 years ago. It was 22 years ago. I'm sorry.
Oh, the elusive number one center.
Yep. The search never ends.
But you know what? As much as I hate seeing Lindholm go, like, I didn't want to overpay him and because do you really if I held a gun to your head, is he a number one center in this league? I don't think so.
He's not.
And that's not a knock on him. That's just
he's one of the best number two centers in hockey.
Yes.
Yep.
He is. He is like, if you could number two center in the dictionary, it's him.
Yep.
It's
good on both sides of the puck. He's got a great shot. And he'll be rejuvenated in Vancouver. He'll go on a bit of a heater to finish the season. And you know what? With him and Zadorov there, I mean, I don't mind cheering for the Canucks in the playoff, depending on if they're playing a team
like don't.
I'm Canadian, man. I gotta,
You're not cheering for the Canucks or the Oilers. You can cheer for the Jets.
If they're playing like the night, yeah, of course the Jets I'll cheer for. If they're playing like the Knights, though, I hate Vegas.
So do I.
You're just gifted a Stanley Cup, so whatever.
Not cheering for no way.
You're gifted a winning roster, I should say. Anyway, screw them. Moving on.
Is it not weird to you that a few years ago we were gaining all the Canucks guys like Markstrom, Tanev, and now they're gaining all of our guys?
It is weird, eh? Who do we have to send back there that's a former Canuck now? Just Tanev?
Yeah, Markstrom. They don't need Markstrom.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny how the roles just gotta flip. But you know what else I thought was funny? Prior to this trade, yesterday morning, I was hearing rumblings that it's Zadorov was talked about being moved, and it was not from crappy sources. Elliot Friedman had mentioned it. I'm thinking, what? They just got Zadorov. That's a very Vancouver-ish comment.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? Oh, man. Well, one domino falls. I think there'll be many more for the Flames, and it'll be interesting to see. And we can only hope that the returns are as good.
Yep, exactly.
Well, what do we talk about next week? Since the Flames will not be playing until we next talk, I think it's going to be an episode where we probably take a deep dive into what happens between now and the deadline, and what kind of return can we get from Tanev? What kind of return can we get from Tanev? We'll update any Dylan Dube news, any more trades, and briefly touch on the All-Star weekend, because I kind of mentally take a break from the All-Stars. I don't watch it.
I hate it. I'm in Ottawa Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, so we'll record probably later in the week, and when we do, we'll probably have a clear picture of some potential trades, which way the Markstrom situation is leaning, and also some guests that we
we're working on that. So hopefully that all pans out, and it could be a good week. Flames fans, take a step back. We need this mentally.
We don't even have a representative now.
Heck, we don't have to watch All-Star. We don't even have to talk about the All-Star game, because we don't even have a player in it.
Nope. No, and the guys are already spread all over the Caribbean, so if they're going to take a break, so can we.
Let's do it. All right, Flame Sons, we are back next week, and it should be a good show. We'll always have something to talk about. Kyle and I hope you guys all have a good week, and I don't know, check back next week, Flame Sons.
Can't wait.
Thanks for listening to Flames Unfiltered with Brad Burud and Kyle Lewis, your source for unfiltered Calgary Flames hockey talk. Keep it locked on flamesunfiltered.ca. Subscribe where you get all your podcasts to never miss an episode. Flames hockey talk every week, presented by Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.